Just another factor to be scared for Gale Force Esports. Let's take a look at where we're going for Game 2 between these two teams. That'll be Tomb of the Spider Queen. You've got an ooh over there.
Yeah, I really like watching Tempo Storm play this map because they've kind of adopted really heavily, as we've seen, like 4 for 4 games from them now, double support centric style. And on this map, I feel like double support is strongest.
Yeah, it is. I would argue, for me, it's I guess maybe not the strongest, but it's definitely the top 3. I don't know. It's hard to gauge on which one is the best, but it's just the pressure you can apply to the front walls, the value you get out of that, and how easy that translates to a win most cases outside of, again, major mistakes.
And the hyper carries you generally pair with the double support have pretty good wave clear overall and good rotational pressure. So I wouldn't imagine we see any change in strategy from Tempo Storm. I mean, why stop what's working? And from the second pick perspective, they've got to... Ooh, wait. Actually, this is a good thing that I didn't even think of. This is a respect ban towards Psalm.
Yeah.
What if there's an even deeper level to what we had said about Tempo Storm's preparation for GFE? In the matches leading up last weekend...
Yeah, they played KT.
They played KT.
On this map.
And they wanted to hide strats for playoffs.
Yeah.
So they played KT on Tomb of the Spider Queen and just had a dominant performance versus Team Freedom. That actually, if that actually was part of their strategy, mind blown.
I mean, for me, it felt like it that week, right? Because they were the only team out of every team in North America that was comfortable playing it. They didn't really have anything to gain or lose because the standings were locked. It did. And so because I saw that one, I was like, okay, I get this. You're essentially hiding strategies, pick the new strong and relevant hero, but I did not think it would be effective enough to draw a ban 2 weeks later.
That's pretty crazy to me that, I mean, playoffs... From Tempo's perspective, the instant they lost first and second seed, the auto bid, everything that's been on their mind is exclusively this final match versus GFE in the playoffs. I mean, we heard that in the confidence in the interview yesterday, and the Braxis ban. They've been prepping specifically for GFE, and if the KT ban is any illustration, they've been prepping for over 2 weeks now. That's awesome.
Is this Vala? Do we see the Vala here taken away by Gale Force?
I mean, I feel like I want to see it just because I'm sick of watching Tempo Storm get double support Vala. That's really it. But I don't know if I necessarily think that that is the best way for Gale Force to get a win here.
Well, it is a style that Gale Force have played for a long time, ever since Fan analyzed the mid-season brawl. Granted, it is a different Vala player generally now.
Since the role swap, Fan used to play Vala a ton, and I actually haven't seen K1's Vala too much, but they take the medic from first pick. I feel like that's just Akka, right?
Yeah, I mean, it is a bit of just Akka. Yeah, he's had the highest morales priority of any support in North America before the rework. Afterwards, it's been probably even with everyone else, but it feels out of place to prioritize the support unless you're relying on a secondary hyper carry, because, again, you know Tempo wants to go in that Vala area, and... Of old, Lunara was close to fulfilling that, but that was with a different support and for different reasons. And so I do wonder if that was a bit of a misplay here to go into the support that high, or at least the Lieutenant Morales there over Vala.
Tempo, they just say, we're going to pick Vala and Malthael. It doesn't matter what 2 supports we're going to get behind those 2 heroes. We're going to have enough of damage threats. You're not going to be able to respond. But to build off your point, Medic really does synergize with a few heroes better than others. Like, Vala's probably the best. And then... probably Gul'dan, Lunara, and then you can throw in some more odd auto-attackers in there, like a Zul'jin or a Sergeant Hammer. Obviously, like, the top of the list is a lot better than the bottom of the list, but those are, in general, the heroes you'd want to see. But this is an interesting pairing. Tracer, Tass, Medic.
Tracer, Tassadar, Medic on Tomb of the Spider Queen, a map where the wave clear is so very important. And let's be real here, pre-13, Tracer has almost negative wave clear. And Tassadar, he does well, but Lieutenant Morales is one of the worst supports in that area as well. So concern for wave clear automatically for GFE.
For sure, too. And one thing to build upon the point that Medic... She thrives when she has wave clear on her team.
Yes.
And she suffers when there's a lack of wave clear on her team. And she doesn't provide a whole lot of wave clear. So GFE's already shown 2 picks that have a serious lack of wave clear on Tomb of the Spider Queen. And that, to me, is a little bit worrisome.
I completely agree.
But they have Task Tracer, and that in and of itself opens up new win conditions for them. So maybe from their perspective, they like those win conditions more than the more standard... you know, the win conditions you'd have if you didn't first pick Medic.
Just the confidence that kind of displays, though, here from Gale Force Esports after that last game. And I never felt like they even were willing to pick a team fight. It just makes me a bit scared. Again, more instinctual responses after a certain situation happens in a game and resorting to, I don't know, common misplays that you maybe see into the past. But I'm ready to be proven wrong. Gale Force Esports here. ends up going with a Varian ban so that Tracer has no taunt to worry about. You actually played the Tracer on Tomb of the Spider Queen into the Varian long ago.
Western Clash, Game 5 versus Tempo Storm, one of the most memorable games for me. It's like super stressful. Back then, Varian had stun on 4. Every time he E'd, it would stun. So it was like this mini game almost. Tracer had to dash at the perfect time while baiting the E, and then you can dash like 3 or 4 times into your team, and Varian will go the whole way. It's like really fun. But I'm glad I don't have to play against it anymore.
There are other taunts.
Stressful.
There are other taunts. We've got it here with Garrosh and Brightwing.
That's true. And Fury, he put up such a good performance on Garrosh yesterday.
Yeah.
And one synergy too. We saw the speed shield last game, but I wonder if they're gonna adapt and adopt a similar strategy with Garrosh this game. Give him some movement speed so he can just walk up and throw the medic instead of having to hit the Q.
And I wonder how much of this Garrosh is for Tempo Storm a bit responsive to any of those heroes with that temporary mobility that seems to be about Groundbreaker's range. Into the Zero tool we saw it before. I mean, we're seeing it here as well. It's just every one of those heroes with that mobility is vulnerable to taunt, and every one of them is vulnerable with their, at least if they only have one dash, to a max range Groundbreaker. And Fury just looked unstoppable on it. And so automatically I'm going, all right, even more pressure here for Gale Force. And the more I say that, the more I'm like, how do they win this game?
Look at this. I didn't think about it. They have healing reduction on 2 heroes versus Medic Tassadar. They have body check if Garrosh opts in to go for that build, as well as Malthael's, I believe, level 7. I have no idea what the talent's called, to be honest. Touch of Death. There we go. And that sort of healing reduction, I think, could be crucial in these team fights to secure a kill. And solo Leo coming out from Calf. I love seeing Calf on Leo, but solo Leo with the new Leo I haven't seen before, so this is going to be interesting.
They ran it last weekend.
It's like
one time on Tomb. It was on Tomb.
Yeah, and it's a strategy that I feel like that they've built here that is kind of, again, like they displayed last week, where it feels like they're going for this long, slow Tomb play that kind of got popularized post-Valencia of last year, and it just doesn't have enough of the sustained DPS from either the Falset or the Tracer for me to look at this and go, you know, it's going to be the major victory here. They didn't make it look bad by any means as last week. It just doesn't seem like it's going to hold up to the comp that Tempo has.
It did defeat Superstars, and they have Falstat as a way of trying to make sure that they can keep Lieutenant Morales alive, because now they do have the extra supporting from Tassadar and a Mighty Gust if things get sour.
I think I want to see Stukov.
Okay. And why is that?
I think the hyper sustain. Okay, they end up going with the Oriole. The Oriole makes a lot of sense too, but my only reasoning for the Stukov, I guess, was just the silence can be very punishing for Tracer, especially if you can predict, like, I don't know. I like the Oriole though. It makes a lot of sense. Really good with the Vala. Tempo's sticking to their guns. Double support Vala.
One of the trade-offs with the Stukov situation is it is really damning to the Tracer if you end up hitting her, right? But it's equally as easy if you fail.
Yeah.
Because if you see the animation where you go in for the lurking arm, then immediately Tracer gets the dodge, and then it's legitimately like, would you like a free pulse bomb? Because you get one every time. So it is a bit of a skill matchup. I think they're just going with the safer route here for Tempo Storm.
For sure.
Accents the wave clear, and ultimately it still has kill potential within the 4, which is the biggest thing that you generally want out of those supports. Why Malfurions and Uthers of the like have stood out so much is if you have that crowd control, you suddenly are lethal within your 4.
All right, so it's obvious now that you guys both seem to be more on the Tempo Storm side of this draft. What do you want to see Gale Force do to be able to get a victory? We'll start with you, Glau.
Looking at their draft, they have a few win conditions available to them, but it's an odd draft for sure, to say the least. They have K1 on Falstad, I'd assume, as well as Calf on Leo. There's 2 of their signature heroes, but it all comes down to how well will Tast and Tracer play off each other, I think.
All right, well, let's see how it works out. We're going into Game 2 with Tempo Storm currently leading the charge 1-0 in this best of 5.
They're leading not only 1-0 here, but they're just looking good in that very first game. No kills were gained by Gale Force Esports, but they've got a Task Tracer. I don't think we're going to be able to say the same here about this one unless Tempo Storm just is that dominant.
Yeah, it almost felt like last game Gale Force weren't expecting to fall as far behind as they did with the Abathur, maybe with a Mule Pick, thinking they would have some more time to catch back up, and then from there it just never stabilized.
That is my consistent criticism with Abathurs on Sky within North America. It has always been, I feel like we give up too much to where he can hold his own at the level at which he does, and Tempo just didn't. They focused on those structures before they even got to the 10, even the 7 mark, and that is suddenly, Abathur is just, I mean, he's a problem more than he is a hero that you want onto your side, but there's no Abathur here, and again, it is a very different map on 2.
Yeah, very different play style that Gale Force are drafting. It may just be the difference for them to be able to tie up the series, but it does come down to the pulse bombs. There's the first flip of probably many from Fury, forcing out a quick recall from Fan as he was trying to get in there and see if he could get the blow up. And blowing up a target is going to be the name of the game for Fan. Difficult with the double support that Tempo Storm have, especially once you get to heroic abilities, namely Crystal Aegis.
And there's a flip on the cap. He has the Wraith walk out. A lot of damage output from Tempo Storm. They're showing how quickly they can get the kills if Fury catches anyone, especially that Tracer. But the biggest thing here is that Gale Force Esports is running a solo Leoric that's accenting the 4. He is not that solo. The fact that Falstad is matching into the Brightwing, this is a very clever and honestly necessary laning adjustment from Gale Force with this composition. Falstad will be more effective post 7 into that Brightwing situation. Brightwing doesn't have as easy of a time into a laning of a Falstad like she does the beefy wave clear warriors like a Dahaka who just doesn't have any kill potential. So this is a really clever play from Gale Force.
Now we're seeing some of the fruition of Gale Force and how they have their setup in the 4-man, in that there's escape with just about any hero that ends up getting tossed to the members of Tempo Storm. K1 Pro is going to have barrel roll. You're seeing Wraith Walk be used, Dimensional Shift, Recall. As long as all of those are up, any of those are okay targets. It's Aka face that people have to be worried about. If he gets in the position, and if Brightwing can start providing that movement speed with Pixie Dust to Fury to get in a position for that, that'll be a whole different tale for Tempo Storm and their Garrosh throws.
It will be a very different tale. And when looking at Gale Force and what they've been aiming for with this composition, it's the reason it does feel that slightly awkward with the lack of sustained DPS is that Task Tracer does thrive in levels 1 through 9, is solid up into the early game, and it doesn't fall off that hard into the later stages. It's just that Leoric, Tassadar, Morales slow tomb play doesn't necessarily play into the Tracer's, you know, she wants to go in, dash, dash, pulse bomb, we win the game, whereas Leo is comfortable even going a whole res cycle before they're willing to open up and reinitiate onto an objective. So this very delicate line Gale Force has to walk through all stages of this game on just how much they want to commit to the initiation all in one shot and how much do they want to try and play this. Look, we have this slow game on our side.
What is nice is that as the pulse bomb goes down, does some damage to Sam. Michael Udall is going to get thrown in. Dimensional Shift. Follow-up. Caterpillar is finding him as he comes back out, but with a Safeguard and Healing Beam, he will survive. What is nice for Gale Force Esports is that Cawthon is the one laning against K1 Pro, and for those early pulse bombs, you would love to be able to have Pixie Dust because of the spell armor it gives to try to negate it before she moves into a Quantum Spike and things change there. So having Brightwing in the bottom may mean that Gale Force are able to get those picks, but so far, we haven't seen one yet.
Yeah, nobody's been paying too much attention down there. Another nice throw coming out from Fury, always making the members of Gale Force second guess themselves. Even the high mobility ones, again, that does seem like it's a bit of the thought process here behind the members of Tempo Storm and why they enjoy that Garrosh, but Fury does it better than almost everybody, it feels like. And you even saw it the first flip that he had onto Tracer. He was comfortable just kind of throwing out a blind drag. Can I get that pull? And almost even predicted the recall situation. He just homing missile for any squishy on the other side of the battlefield.
He's got a quick trigger finger to make sure that if he does catch someone, they are thrown in very fast before a minion or something else gets in the way, always making sure that he's in that position for the quality throw that might give his team first blood. We're 4 minutes into this game now, and we haven't had a single kill. We've got a few gems turned in, a slight lead to Tempo Storm, but it's nothing to call home about.
Yeah, and it does make a little sense, again, with the Gale Force there. If anybody gets the kills, it's going to be Fan on that Tracer. Tempo Storm on the other side is very satisfied if they can get a lot of pressure onto the front walls. K1 Pro ended going down to the turret shot. The pulse bomb on top from Fan netted a kill there as well. Gale Force winning on 2 fronts.
Yeah, they opened up in a big way with those 2 kills, giving them slight advantage, but especially the double man advantage is giving some time for turn-ins. June will stall Michael Udall once with the Detainment Strike, but now that Fan's here, you'll have to be okay with Mike turning in those 6 gems.
And normally when we see teams focus on early turn-ins, and if they don't have the best siege, you immediately go, guys, is this worth a turn-in right now? But because of that late-game slow play composition that Gale Force has, I think it is a much safer strategy for them to just be even for the levels 1 through 13 and then just kind of stop the bleeding from 13-20 and then really wreak the havoc post-20. If they fall behind, though, in levels 1 through 9, and then more importantly, pre-13, I don't think that that strategy is going to be nearly as reliable. Conveniently, games 1 and 2 have both been slow post-13 strategies here for Gale Force. Just last time, Tempo didn't even let it matter.
Yeah, it's been a more methodical series, but it makes sense that it would do so. It is the last series, the last chance for both of these teams to make it to HGC Finals at BlizzCon, and it's kind of strange that it's Tempo and Gale Force in this position position, but that's what we've got, and it has amounted to a fantastic series so far.
Fantastic play here. Both teams trying to get that turn-in down below on bottom. Leo and Falstad doing their best to get the zone out. Fury, he's just going to drop the groundbreaker. His sole purpose here is just to get the interrupts. The wave clear and control that Gale Force has been able to display into, again, what we considered a pretty dominant laning over Tempo Storm shows really great chances for Gale Force into this game. I just can't say that enough. I am very impressed with what they've been able to do with the adjustments in laning. I often suggest about what if you take this fluctuation, you just bait them into assuming one thing, and it almost never happens in North America. But here for Gale Force, they're showing that they think otherwise.
Yeah, it's working out really well for them. They still are trying to get the first turn-in to get something even further from that. But so far, Tempo Storm has done a great job of stopping that. But finally, Gale Force rotates out, gets the vision, gets the control of the turn-in points, and are rewarded with the first Web Weaver phase of the game.
So let's see if they can drop any of those front walls down and let Fan kind of wreak havoc there. Use the Task Tracer to do what Task Tracer does best, pulse bombs and kills. They're going to start with the focus here up onto mid, flip onto Fan. No attempt afterwards here from Fury. King Caffeine coming down, though. Tries to get a slow. Nade. Not enough to bump him into a bad spot.
Yeah, especially Fury. Still being at half health, having that armor, and June behind him. He'll be A-okay. It's Falstad versus Brightwing still in the bottom lane. We've got Tass and Malthael on the top. Here in the mid, it's the 3-lane versus the 3-man. When Entomb's been used, Heroics here catches Fury. June and Som are safe. Fury will just throw back King Caffeine, but now the pulse bomb comes in. Quantum Spike still not quite enough to end Fury's life. 3
heroics, and it felt like 45 minutes on the other side of the wall, and Fury still stands there with his armor. An absolute terror, and that shows the concern towards this all-in play style, but then also this slow that the other heroes on the composition kind of play into. I honestly don't know how Gale Force should be approaching this, but they have to find a way.
Oh, wow. That was so well done, catching and then taunting her out of the recall, too. Now King Caffeine is almost dead. Fury pulls Michael Udall to the team, and Tempo Storm may have lost the first Web Weaver phase. They did lose a fort, but they at least got a kill necessary to keep up with Gale Force.
We still see June hold on to his heroic on Ariel. This is the second time we've seen this out of him. Yesterday I had an argument for it. Oh, we do have the medevac too from Gale Force. I didn't even know that, but I had an argument for it yesterday. I don't today, Gilly. If this goes into the Resurrect here, we already see that Koth and Lux adjusted. He's not going Emerald Wind instead to the Blink heal.
Maybe it's if you take Resurrect, you just eat the Pulse Bomb, it kills Vala, and then she comes back.
Could be the case.
That's how Easter used it.
Essentially just saying the only win condition is the immediate kill onto Vala, so we'll just try and make sure that she keeps herself alive. If they somehow get the Miracle Tracer play, I'll just bring it back up.
Yeah, but what if June is the person that is the Pulse Bomb focus?
Gilly, you're asking the good questions here. You really are. Top Web Weaver sieging up. Gale Force, what do they want to do? Do they try and move upwards? Calf tries, but Fury says, nah, not today. The clear on here. Oh, even an Entomb going to be dropped. Do we see that it's going to be Aegis still for June? Forcing the heroic pick there after dropping that Entomb.
Fury's into the phrase are so amazing. Just like, you don't even get the option of being able to attack my Ariel. She's going to be firmly behind this Entomb. You got to fight me if you're going to go through, and he's playing that protector role, the guardian of Warrior, so admirably in this series, and this weekend. The siege continues for Tempo Storm as they are working on bringing down this top fort.
It should be noted, oh, wait a minute. K1 Pro with the flight, and that Gus Psalm is going to be the focus for the members of Gale Force Esports. Calf is going to get taunted. Wraith walking through. Pulse Bomb drops. Fury gets a blink heal, and he's going to be fine. Tormented Soul's coming out from Kato. The teleport into the fray. And again, fireworks on both sides, but no one goes down.
Double support versus double support. There you go. Tempo Storm hoping that they could have gotten the kill to catch them up to 13, but Gale Force willing to fight before that 13 even. Still not getting anything yet. There is another toss.
That containment strike was immediate, and it's almost enough to get him that kill. June, that was amazing. I am absolutely astounded. The fact that they didn't get that kill. Okay, so Gale Force, they do not lose any of those gems. Do not risk that risky situation. They've got themselves this 13. We could expect that they're going to try and force this turn, and will Tempo give it?
Still no 13 for them. Yeah, that will be able to give a lot. Guessing that along with the Blink heal, we're going to see Shield Dust to give some of the physical armor. Generally, we've seen more of Ice Block for Brightwing, but in this case, because they're against that Tracer and Falstad composition, it makes a lot of sense to see that.
Containment Strike didn't connect there for June, so that's a Web Weaver phase now here for Gale Force Esports. Yep. Second one of the game for them.
Still Ice Block, but 13's here for Tempo, with blue Web Weavers descending.
Blue Web Weavers down. Oh man, oh wait a minute here. Fan gets flipped, drops that recall. He's okay. Things are going to be just fine. Always nice to have that Lieutenant Morales to keep your effective HP, or just keep your HP so very high. We kind of once in a while talk about heroes that how much HP you need to feel effective. Tracer is one of those that always wants to be at that high threshold before she feels like she can do anything, and conveniently, Medic is one of the best at that. But Taunt goes down onto Fan, Polymorph immediately after. The healing beam from Akaface seems to be enough for now. K1 Pro questioning, does he fly, does he gust?
That Force Wall just part of the season. Cattle's ready to go, drops Tormented Souls, has Touch of Death, but still nobody falls from Gale Force. These Force Walls have been great. Gust, everyone else allowing him to try to focus on Cattle, but with an N2 of the fray, Tempo Storm saves off.
Really good job there from K1 Pro going into that fog section and kind of questioning, will Cattle overextend too much, gust out both of those supports and be able to lock down the kill? Because as we've seen, this double support versus double support, not too many kills are in fact actually happening into the fights. But with the top Web Weavers still standing, Gale Force look like they're going to venture up to this top keep. If they end up taking out the keep front wall, it's not enough for 16, but it's close enough to where they can maybe back out even bully out a boss.
Jared, do you think it's been a problem so far that with the constant pressure and focus on Fan with these Garrosh combos, he always has to use Recall defensively, so he can't feel as comfortable to dive deep into the backline, get the Pulse Bomb, and try to get that kill from that, and then Parting Gift on the way out?
I mean, it does feel like that is a bit of it. Just right now, Fan is in a situation where he can't apply the pressure to the right targets, I feel like. Just between them all. Like, Brightwing is no longer an option. Most of the time, if you're moving into the get on top of the Ariel, that means Brightwing's polymorphing. She's a threat. You're afraid of the taunt. You're afraid of almost every single person but the Vala. Talking about Vala, though, big Entomb here up in mid.
Yeah, the Phase Shift's going to come in, giving that extra shielding. Now King Caffeine, Wraith walking away. Even Dimensional Shift's been used.
There's that
recall, but recall right into the grasp of Tempo Storm.
The shield!
They keep him alive!
The beam, he is good to go. Fan and friends trying to get the retreat. Nice Hungering Arrow used by Psalm is enough to get the kill. Gems picked up by Gale Force Esports as they are still rounding the 16 talent here, but this means Tempo Storm, they can back out and get this Web Weaver phase. It should be noted, though, if they kick this off, that they're going to not be able to pick the fights they want because of the 16 of Gale Force, and this is where Gale Force should be looking to really force.
Yeah, Tempo Storm can try to push the waves as best they can. They send Vala top, Brightwing bottom, they push with the rest in the mid, but because of that 16, Tempo Storm are basically using a lot of Gems 55 just to say we need to hold on. We need to stave off more aggression from Gale Force Esports because Gale Force are winning structurally. And although Tempo would love to be able to take out all of these forts in this one swoop and then climb massively ahead in experience, because of the 16, they have to play this slowly.
Tempo moves up on mid. They've only got 3 members of Gale Force here, so they feel comfortable taking the man advantage for now. Brightwing not going to force that teleport. This turret's enough to get the 16. So now Tempo's comfortable to take the fight. They still have mid and bottom Web Weaver. After this, they expect the cycle to bottom, but now Psalm is in a bad spot. The Entomb and the Force Wall is going to be used, but Fan, the Detainment Strike hits him and it kills.
I don't know if I've ever seen a whip kill like that with June taking him out. Now Fury finds an Akaface, and she will go down. No support, no primary support, no Tracer for Gale Force Esports. Tempo Storm were behind, but patiently waiting until they got to 16. Cattle even going into the fray, gets his Reaper's Mark on K1 Pro, and now he's ready to battle too.
He's got the teleport, and there's 19 gems left.
That was awesome.
Tempo Storm is absolutely wreaking havoc right now. Once that bottom Web Weaver is dealt with, they may end up backing out and taking that the boss immediately here up on the top lane. I don't see any reason Gale Force Esports should not be able to stop it. They're 28 seconds away from their Falstad. But we need that Web Weaver to die. There we go.
That was so freaking cool, that Caterpillar throw. Oh my gosh. All right, boss being taken by Tempo Storm. 13 seconds till Falstad is back. And not even anybody amassing from Gale Force up here. So they're just going to clear out the boss without losing much structurally if they can possibly. But it's up to Tempo Storm how much they push along with this. They also have Web Weavers they could send along with this boss.
They're trying to get the turn-in and the boss at the exact same time here. Looks like they're comfortable not getting that stacked immediately one on top of another, but it's still going to be a very close succession here up on top. Should it be, I mean, it's a minimum of a keep. It's just how much beyond that. Tempo Storm, once this Web Weaver phase is dealt with up on top, or if the keep dies, we can see their thought process. They're either going to step up to the core, buy time for mid, and then end up moving into the core, kill here or there, or expect a cycling, dancing around, and getting a minimum double keep play, I feel.
Right wing comes in. There's a first pull. Does hit Fan, but he doesn't have to use recall to get back out of it. Boss at half health as it moves on to the well. Web Weaver's still behind this, but starting to get into the lanes.
Top keep now falling down to 50%. Fury unable to find Fan there. Force Wall just barely out of reach. Now the Web Weaver here looking to have some fun. Tempo Storm will take this top keep, but just can Gale force beyond it. Poke onto Fan once more. Wraith Walk from King Caffeine. Not going to pull the trigger yet.
Well, just reducing the damage, seeing if he can scare away Tempo Storm, but Tempo are not feeling scary yet. They take down the keep, and now they can make the rotation. 18, almost 19 now. There's 19 to 18. So this is the window for Gale Force to try to force a fight. Maybe if the gate goes down, we see K1 Pro. Does get tagged.
Kath is just going around, establishing dominance with that Wraith Walk there, trying to remove the damage so this front wall won't go down, but the bottom Web Weaver is still healthy. Tempo Storm's just literally buying time so that Web Weaver can be effective down below. They take out the structures here up on mid. That's not enough for the 20, but it's very, very close.
Cattle making sure to watch and make sure that King Caffeine doesn't get a sideways entomb. That ends the game for Tempo. Tempo will just get the towers in front of the keep, knowing that they almost have the level 20 advantage and can make something happen with that. They don't want to allow Gale Force to get the fights, and that kind of has been the story so far of the series, is Tempo making all the right moves to be aggressive, but pull back and never get Gale Force the fight that they would need to get back into the game.
But Tempo also is in that awkward Tomb of the Spider Queen situation where you've downed your win conditions, gems, and the top boss. The catapults alone are not going to apply enough pressure for you to really be too afraid, especially with the false head. He can back out, he can clear. So Tempo needs to use this 20 advantage with the only few mercenaries that exist and find a way to force around those. They took the night camp, and it looks like they're questioning if do they want to clump up into the mid keep and focus on that. Personally, I would have liked to see maybe a giant attempt and really focus on those. Giants are something that on Tomb of the Spider Queen, they're very rarely a situation where they are the right call, but when they are, they can actually be really effective at forcing that advantage on bottom.
Well, the timing of this has been really good for Tempo Storm. They get the bruisers, and they are still going to force along with this. So something that has plagued Tempo Storm in the past, they're moving past that. They have all the tools necessary to try to win this game. They're starting to work on the keep, seeing if Gale Force Esports will give them the kills necessary to close this out.
But even though this does look grim for Gale Force Esports, we have to remind ourselves that they are rounding the 20, not because that is even footing in talent tiers, but because their composition is very, very powerful post-20, specifically Leoric, and the threat that he can have. Fury was force-walled on out. The keep still stands.
It's so low, but so are Gale Force close to 20. There they have it. Do Tempo step forward to make sure to bring that down that keep?
The Silence and Tomb is online for King Caffeine. I was wondering into a Garrosh if we still maybe see some kind of attempt, but here he goes. Wraith Walk number 1. Does he drop the Silence? Doesn't look like yet.
Strike. There's a Polymorph follow-up taunt too. Fan is in trouble. Fan is in trouble. Fan is gone.
Fan already down, and the Silence is too late here for Gale Force Esports. Caught in luck. He's going to teleport on top of Cattle. The Reaper's Mark on K1 Pro is doing a lot of work. Akaface has the healing beam on. The bottom keep will fall for Tempo Storm on top of those Giants, but Gale Force here, it has way bigger concerns. It's their core that they got to be keeping track of.
It's the core, and it's the game. They do not want to go down 2 games versus Tempo Storm, but K1 Pro has been caught, and now a second kill on the damage dealer without Falstad, without Tracer. This is getting more and more dire for Gale Force Esports, and better for the members of Tempo Storm.
Aegis drops, able to keep Cattle alive. June uses the AoE heal. He's very low. We have to remind ourselves, Malthael has very little damage on top of the core.
Yeah.
And so Vala has to be the main focus, but Lieutenant Morales is just a Lieutenant Morales. Akaface not long for this world. Tempo Storm dominantly taking game 2 as well over Gale Force Esports.
Gale Force had some better looking moments in that game. They had a really good early game, even though they weren't maybe getting tons and tons of Tracer picks. They were at least opening up the battleground. They got the first fort. Where did it seem to go wrong for you, Glau?
Honestly, I just feel like GFE puts themselves in positions where they have to outplay their opponents to win. That's in the draft I'm speaking of. And in this game, we get to see Tempo Storm, or in this replay, I'm sorry, we get to see Tempo Storm really pressure and utilize GFE, and you get to see GFE sort of try and make a play, but it doesn't work out for them in the end. And right here, we just see Tempo Storm, Siege mid, they just hit the same talent tier, level 16, but you could make an argument that they just got ahead. The engagement comes out here from Fen, and Psalm gets a double combo, and it's just unfortunate, but huge props to Tempo Storm for being able to focus it down. But this Gust is the biggest thing that I wanted to talk about. You can tell just from the Gust there that there's major miscommunication going on in GFE's comms right now. K1 goes in behind and gusts all of Tempo Storm into a medic, and that's like not necessarily what he wants to have happen.
This part?
Yeah. There was definitely some miscommunication on GFE's end, and if they want a chance to knock it 3-0'd, they need to clean up that communication for sure.
I agree, and I think it wasn't just even that one moment, right? Even when it came to the last team fight, the fact that Fan can die before the Silence and Tomb goes down, and there was a minimum 2, but one of them was the support, which again is kind of on that checklist of must-haves on Entombs. It just felt like between K1, King Caffeine, and the remainder of the roster, everyone had their own mentality on what they needed to do to win that game.
I kind of feel like that's the storyline for GFE throughout this series in general. Everyone's just kind of doing their own thing and not so much working as much of a unit as I feel like they should. But huge props to Tempo Storm, once again showing that they can execute that double support Vala composition where they stay tight in it and keep Psalm alive on that Vala.
Well, Tempo Storm are up 2 games in this best of 5. If they win the next one, they're going to BlizzCon. We'll see you after the break.